Thank you very much. Shri Ehsanul Haq, President, Jalandhar Management Association, Chairman, Vice Chairman, Office Bearers, Your Excellency, Ambassador Ali Ilyasu, Ambassador of the Republic of Niger, not to be confused with Nigeria, Ambassador Ramesh Chandra, my colleague in the Indian Foreign Service, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great privilege to be present in Jalandhar and this opportunity to share very briefly a few thoughts with you. बोलना तो मैं हिंदी में चाहता था, but because Ambassador Ali Ilyasu is here, he doesn't speak Hindi yet. So I shall perforce confine myself to the weakest of the many languages that I speak, which is English. Of the 49 countries in sub-Saharan Africa, what we refer to as Black Africa, in the course of my career, I would have covered, at last count, 38. The reason is that my ambassadors didn't like me and kicked me out from post to post very quickly. So I've probably done more assignments than most other Foreign Service officers. It'll also interest you to know that the largest group of African embassies in any country outside New York, which is the United Nations, is in New Delhi. At last count, there were 42 African ambassadors in the nation's capital and 11 honorary consuls, giving us a total of 53 out of an African total of 55. This reflects the interest that Africa has in India and which India should now reciprocate. Friends, when I travel the world in my present capacity as advisor to South Sudan and the responsibility I have just assumed as advisor to the President of Guinea-Bissau, another tiny country in West Africa. When I travel and speak to people from academia, from industry, from the universities, one of the subjects that we often talk about is global mega trends, what we see happening on our planet today. Sometimes we are so caught up in our daily work, धंधे में इतने व्यस्त हो जाते हैं, that we are unable to look at the larger picture. I'm privileged to have a personal spacecraft. Every month I take off in my spacecraft, rise into the stratosphere and look down on planet Earth. Figuratively, I don't literally have one. But I'm able to evolve above my body into a different level and then see the trends that are shaping our planet. Very briefly, I see four things happening on Earth. First, very clearly, economic power is shifting. आपको याद है, there used to be a G7 that determined the future of the world. 7 richest countries. Then Russia joined, it became G8. Now we have G20 with an equal number of developed and developing countries. And again, not very often do we realize that 3 of the world's 4 largest economies are in Asia. The largest is the United States, 13 trillion. Next comes China, 12 trillion. in purchasing power parity terms. Next comes India at 6 trillion, and then Japan at 4 trillion. The rest of the countries follow. So we see a very serious and evident shift of economic power to the east from the west. Aapne television pe dekha hoga, you would have seen that recently the Prime Minister of Britain was here. He came with 200 businessmen, the largest ever business delegation a British Prime Minister has taken to any country. And there was a wonderful article in The Economist on the visit, which showed him kneeling before Sardar Manmohan Singh and Madam Sonia Gandhi and saying, Britain ki madad karo. These are all reflective of new trends on our planet. From space, I also see political influence shifting. When India contested for a non-permanent seat in the UN Security Council, we've just finished our tenure. 192 of the 193 members voted for us, including some countries that don't like us. The one invalid vote was not an enemy, but someone who put a wrong tick mark on the ballot paper. Otherwise, we would have set a world all-time record. It is an all-time record, but we would have set an unbeatable record with 193 out of 193 people voting for India. बहुत देर से हम लोग सोचते रहे हैं that the West exercised a lot of political influence. That is no longer true. We find that now there is a global shift towards the developing world. The President of Egypt, the new President, his first visit outside the region was not to Europe or to the United States, unlike all his predecessors. It was to China. And his second visit was to India. He still hasn't been to Europe or to the United States. Again, you might think that this is insignificant, but for those of us who observe international relations, this is making a very powerful statement that the future of my country is now linked to the East, not to the West. We see the military balance shifting, the third mega trend. Today, as we sit here, there is a huge crisis in the Korean Peninsula. You've been following it on television, you've been seeing it, reading about it in the newspapers. And this is a serious threat to the stability, perhaps the existence of the peninsula, with one country threatening to use nuclear weapons against some others. Some people might think they are not serious, but it's a threat that no one can dismiss lightheartedly. So we find that the military balance is now shifting dramatically. Yes, we know the United States, Britain and France are nuclear powers, but so are Russia, China, India, Pakistan, North Korea, perhaps Israel. More in Asia than in the West. And we often ask, if such a thing had happened 20 years ago, if this country, which is now threatening the most powerful nations in the world, Africa, 70% of our world's known reserves of every mineral in the world, including oil, are in Africa. 70% of what remains on planet Earth is in Africa. And Africa today seeks India's help in 4 sectors. Number 1, agriculture. Of the 54 African countries, in a continent that has roughly the same population as India, a lot of land, a lot of water, and lots of sunshine. Of these 54 countries, 48 are net food importers. 48 of the 54 African countries are net food importers. Agriculture is the top priority. Infrastructure comes next. One of our senior leaders in South Sudan, was bereaved 5 years ago. His wife died because the nearest primary health center was 400 kilometers from the village. She had malaria. Nobody dies of malaria anymore. But this lady died. And at that point of time when I met him, he said, Ambassador, please ask your government to build me a primary health center in my village, which we did. Hopefully that health center is still functioning. The third sector where Africa looks to India is human resource development. Ladies and gentlemen, if you travel to Africa, you will still see a lot of so-called experts whose job it is to spurt. You'll find people from the World Bank, from the IMF, from all kinds of UN organizations. And many, many Africans ask me, why can't we follow India's example and throw them all out? You don't have experts. You manage everything on your own. How did this Indian miracle come about? And the answer invariably is human resource development. 1 out of 10 Africans lives in a pakka home. 1 out of 10 Africans has access to assured electricity. 3 out of 10 Africans has access to assured drinking water. And only 1 has a university located within 100 kilometers of where he or she lives. These are challenges, these are also opportunities. So I urge you to look seriously at Africa. The Jalandhar Management Association is a trendsetter. Take the lead, make a visit, identify opportunities. Doing business in Africa is not easy. Doing business in India is not easy. The same challenges that we face in India, we face in Africa. Lack of decision making? Sure. Corruption? You bet. Governance which is somewhat weak? You can't be wrong on that. All these challenges are here. I see that one of the best universities in the world, lovely professional university, is represented here. I urge you, sir, to look at setting up branch campuses in African countries, because human resource is their primary requirement, so that they do not have to import people from outside. I did not wish to speak so long, but television वाले को बुलाओगे तो फिर उसको चुप कराना बड़ा मुश्किल होता है. May I, at this point of time, invite Ambassador Ali Ilyasu of the Republic of Niger. 40 years ago, when I was studying at a foreign university, something happened in my life that Niger became very much a part of my being. I went to Niamey, the capital, some years ago. It's incredibly beautiful, amazingly poor, and with resources that would put many countries to shame, make many countries jealous. Right now you see on the screen the flag of Niger. You can see it looks very much like the Indian flag. There's even a circle in the middle which represents the sun. There is this similarity between our flags. I'll now step down to where the computer is so that we can run through a few slides, and then we'll invite my brother Ali Ilyasu. He and I speak 3 common languages other than English. We both speak French, we both speak Arabic, and we both speak Chinese. So we are going to communicate to you in English. Give me a moment, I'll just walk down to the computer and we go ahead with our slideshow on the Republic of Niger. Well, thank you very much.